Hello, everyone, and welcome to FUTV. I am your host, Paul Douglas Moomjean. My co-hosts, Dominika Van Santen. Give it up for Dominika. And my other co-host and tech guru, give it up for Ray Lau, everybody. We also have a very special guest today. We'll be doing an interview with him in a little bit. Give it up for Steve Mizan, everybody.
Welcome, Steve.
All right. Hi. Hello, Steve. So, Steve, this is our first episode of FUTV.
Whoa.
Yes, this is everything you didn't know that you needed to know about stand-up comedy.
Fantastic. It says the virgin I am the virgin guest.
Yes, you're popping our live stream and
Popping the cherry, but it's a FUTV, so I think we're all no longer virgins anymore.
Oh. Yeah. Well, Ray and I still are, but that's a different.
On live.
Ray has no idea what he signed up for, Steve. So we're really excited. Basically, today, what our plans are is to go over aspects of writing for television, working in late night. But before we do that, we kind of like to know what's going on in the world by 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock Eastern time. And so we're going to go over to Ray right now, who has a few current events for us to discuss. Let's do the real world.
Real. We don't have a theme song yet. Real world with Ray.
Da, 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 da.
Real world news with Ray. The story. Oh, right here. Story number one. Everybody has heard a little bit of it. We're going to discuss it here today. Murder hornets found in the U.S. for the first time ever. Killer bees, right? Coming into the U.S., right? They came from Asia, and they too were affected by the coronavirus. They heard all the hubbub, and they're coming in down. Scientists in Washington, right? They spotted it in December. Usually are killing just bees, but now they kill people. And guess what? They're here. So we thought we had a bad enough day. Here we have killer bees, murder hornets.
So I think it's fair to say that the coronavirus is only getting more positive daily. I do know this. When I think about killer hornets, I think about the 1990s with Larry Johnson and Alonzo Mourning. I don't know about you guys. Those guys could block. Steve, what do you think? Do you think we should worry about the giant hornets coming after us?
You know, as an amateur district attorney, I have the question, hey, what is this? Is this first degree murder? Is it manslaughter? Like, what level of murder is it? Is it purposeful? Are they driving cars and it's just an accident? And then we're like, well, someone's got to be blamed here. Like,
I think
they're
pretty evil. I think they're doing it on purpose.
It is purposeful.
Yeah.
It could be like the vaccine for corona, you know? Like, I really thought that.
Good point. If you got to get a shot, how about a sting? Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's something I read back in like January or maybe February, that the hornets were brought up as news before. What they said is that because of the lack of smog due to everyone in lockdown, it actually created a pathway for the hornets.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow.
So the thing protecting us from the hornets was our own inability to take care of our planet.
Wow. We're screwed either way. We either screw the planet and worse climate change, or we let the killer bees come back.
Definitely now the animals are taking over, like, cities and the world. Like,
Yeah, let's do the slow death part. Let's start with the smog again, right? I want to go.
Let's go back. Come on.
It's called smog. It's not called murder smog, right? Like, at least it sounds nicer. We'll die. Yeah, some coughing and stuff. Not a running from a bee. What about a mask? Like, what if we all go full bee suit now? That would solve both problems, right?
That's true. That's true.
We all just wore a bee suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like a bee suit, not like the girl in the video. Like, you don't dress up like a bee, Paul. I'm talking about like a honeybee, like a beekeeper outfit.
We do realize that with the with the hornets coming to kill the bees, life has officially become A Bug's Life at a Pixar movie. Okay? Like, this has officially reached a point now where our lives are now corresponding with the plots of 90s Pixar films.
It's
Definitely.
probably in the works already for Pixar. Pixar's running out of ideas, right? They've gone through everything.
Well, I don't even know if Pixar ever had an original idea after Toy Story, because it's really just, what if things that don't talk talk?
100%.
Yeah.
What if fish talked?
Fish, ants, cars, right?
Right.
100% right now. There's a script in the works at Pixar called Shoes, and just a bunch of different shoes, and like Dame Judi Dench is going to play the high heel, and she's going to be like, woo, and then there's going to be a high top, and it's going to be Chris Rock, and he's going to be like, what's up with this? You know, like, and it's every gender and stereotype is going to be assigned to a different shoe.
And,
What shoe will you be?
Ooh, that's a good question.
well, think about this. The most existential one was, what if your feelings talked?
Oh yeah, right.
Inside
Hey,
Out.
I love that movie. That's a great movie.
And then the one that,
That has a great question though. If you were a shoe, what shoe would you be?
shoe would you be? I'd be a slipper.
Like a beach sandal? I'm lazy, I think.
I would probably be those mechanical leg shoes Forrest Gump had. That'd be me.
Ray, what do you get?
Probably a 3-year white tennis shoe, you know, just sort of in the garage, not really, you know, sometimes, but all reliable for sure. All reliable.
Dominika, your question. What do you put it at?
I would be an indigenous shoe. I'm very like hippie like, so I like those shoes like handmade with like threads and colors, like definitely.
Like a
Very cool. Ray, thank you for bringing the destruction of our planet to our consciousness. I'm glad that we're not going to die from the coronavirus, but instead from deadly insects. With that said, let's move to something a little bit more fun and positive. One of my favorite memes is what the client wants, but what the client's budget is. And so we're going to show you some examples that Ray, Dominika, and I came up with. Okay, Steve? So tell us what you think.
I love this.
Oh, which one is this on? Is it on Instagram? Or
It's
Twitter?
on Instagram, yes. So I saw this a while back. We're using this one with Marvel characters.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the thing. We're going to do this with Marvel characters. We've used the hashtag FUTV2020. What we found is when we typed that into Instagram, no one had ever used it before.
Oh.
So it's kind of like one of those marriage hashtags where it's like, you know, Moomjean and the hypothetical woman that I marry one day. like nowhere will it ever have that, right? There will. Okay, so here's some ones that we have.
Theme song, really quick. Kooky quarantine questions.
No, that's the wrong image, but that's okay.
Oh wait. All right, here we go. First episode. Here we go. No theme song.
What the client wants, the client's budget. I am a poor man's store. Is that fair to say?
You look at it. It actually looks pretty good, I think.
I think so too. You know who I look like? I look like Thor, but in the last Avengers film.
It's if they cast Zach Galifianakis as Thor.
Yes. This is
Thor after this lockdown, and
This is Fat Thor. This is Endgame Thor.
Yeah, right. You were ahead of the thing. I love it.
All right, let's take a look at Dominika's.
Whoa, Brian.
Oh, she got Wonder Woman. We got DC here, Wonder Woman, and the client. Oh, is that a pan?
oh yeah, you better believe it.
I like that you're fighting crime out in the forest too. Like, that's where it happens. That's where the tough stuff. That's the evil.
Ray, were you able to do one? Oh my gosh, what the client wants.
Nice.
That one actually looks kind of close, a little bit.
Not bad.
The biceps are a little lacking. I won't lie to you, but you know the expression.
Yeah, that doesn't look like anti- adium, whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that actually in the real movie he was just clipping things in between his knuckles because it looks pretty dang close.
It is pretty close. What are yours? Are those
Butter knife.
Nice.
Also, the muscles they look very similar.
Right? I
Butter.
mean,
Hair too. Yeah.
I love it. You know what I love?
If Wolverine gets like if you know there's a slowdown on crime, you could be like a waiter, and you could be like, okay, may I butter your rolls?
Yeah.
You know what I love the most about that is the complete lack of facial hair on the sides.
There's a little peach fuzz. There's a little peach fuzz. You got to zoom in.
Fun fact, my brother actually has tattoos in his knuckles where he has the Wolverine scars.
Oh, well, that's
That's fun.
He was the tattoo artist, and it's the same guy that I went to as well. He said he's never seen anything like it. My brother didn't realize that this part of his finger was the most sensitive part.
yeah.
So when that went in, he screamed like a little baby.
How many tattoos do you have, Paul?
I have the wolf up here.
Mm-hmm.
I have the wolf in the forest, and then I have Saint Francis of Assisi.
Whoa.
And on the opposite side, I actually have my rabbit who passed away in January.
Oh.
Yeah.
So all right there, though. Nothing else? Nothing hidden? No tramps?
No. I'll do that when I'm drunk. I'll get my tramp stamp. It'll say FUTV on it.
FUTV, right?
Like a butterfly. You can't forget the butterfly.
But I was supposed to get this filled in March, but obviously a deathly virus hovers the world.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get a mood and mist, and it'll be really cool when it's done.
You're not gonna need clothes anymore. You're gonna just like go out like that. You're just gonna.
So nobody wants to see my naked body here. Nobody.
What if
I do.
What did you say, Dominika? I don't even believe that.
All three of us are all in.
I believe in my heart of hearts that Steve and Ray would rather see my naked body than you. Okay.
you know what I want? Okay.
That's right. Don't start mansplaining to her.
I can mansplain my own rejection. All right, so now
this is the first episode. It's called FUTV. Let's see some nudity.
Make some history.
This is also being live streamed on the Flappers comedy page. I would hate for the Flappers Facebook comedy page to be completely eliminated after the first episode of FUTV.
This is in the Flappers tradition. Weren't Flappers kind of rebels in the 1920s?
That's a good point. That's a good point. Steve, we'd like to talk to you a little bit about your career.
Nice segue. Way to change the subject.
I'm very good. Look, we were talking about my naked body, and now we're talking about you. If anything, you should be honored. My naked body is a metaphor for your career.
It sure is, yeah.
So, walk us through. How long have you been doing stand-up comedy now?
So I started at the end of '99, so just over 20 years. And then I went full-time in '03, so 17 years full-time. But yeah, 21, I guess then. Yeah, almost.
How, from 99 to 2003, that's only 4 years.
Yeah.
So what allowed you the jump to be a full-time comedian in 4 years?
That's a great question, Paul. You know, I always say, hey, by the way, anytime anyone says great question, it means I'm going to give you a bullshit answer. That's what it means. But I actually am going to give you a good question or a good answer to that because it's one of the things that's so valuable, I think, in getting me to where I got. I was very lucky. There's a lot of luck involved. And I was very lucky in those first 4 years. I started comedy in San Francisco. And it was that was kind of during the first .com boom, you know, up in Silicon Valley there. And so I had a day job. I had moved out there from Chicago. I'd never done comedy before. And I moved out there. My sister had just had a couple kids. They were young, like 2 and 3 at the time. And I wanted to see them grow up right after college. And as soon as I moved out there, they moved back to Chicago. So I was out in the Bay Area by myself. And so that gave me that. I was like, all right, if I'm going to stay here, I'm going to try something I always wanted to try, which was comedy. So I finally got the balls to do it and went out and went to an open mic that was at a laundromat. That's still going. It's called the Brainwash Cafe. It's a laundromat / cafe, and you perform for people folding laundry or drinking coffee while their laundry is spinning, and that's who you perform for. But it's actually a pretty good show. But luckily, during that time, it was the .com boom, so I had a day job as kind of a headhunter, like putting people in jobs. And because places were hiring so much, my job was pretty easy, and my bosses kind of knew I might jump at any time because they were hiring like receptionists for $75,000 who had never answered phones before. Like they just wanted people. Google was starting and stuff like this. Like, you know, this is pre-Facebook and Twitter and all these things are coming along. All these startups going. So my bosses were pretty flexible, and they would let me take weeks off and go on the road and work. And sometimes they'd even pay me, like just, they were afraid I would jump into one of these startups, which I was never going to do because I wanted to do comedy. I was just doing this. So it allowed me, I had a 9-to-5 job and a car. Two things that helped at the beginning of a comedy career. One, a regular paycheck so that you don't have to pretend like, oh, I'm really going to make a career. You're not going to make a career at the beginning. You got to learn how to do it. So a regular job is good, and then you got to force yourself to have a second job, which is after that, after 5 o'clock, I would drive into the city, into San Francisco every single night and do at least 2 open mics. And then eventually those 2 open mics turned into sometimes showcases, and then in the club I would get a set or a guest set and stuff like that, and I kept track. So I'm at work, I had a calendar, one of those big desk calendars, you know, that you place your coffee on and stuff, and it's big, and there's big, you know, square for each day. And I would keep track of how many sets I did each week. And I would try, and I would aim for 2 a day, so 14. But there were times I had 25 sets in a week, and so that was it. So I did that, and then so I did that for 4 years, and I got into the clubs in San Francisco. And during that time, they opened a improv in Sunnyvale or San Jose, and there was a club in Sunnyvale. So there was about in the total area probably the 6 or 7 clubs running in the Bay Area, and then I had started working the road too. And then so I was set myself up for when the .com bubble burst in 2003, and they let me go for my job. It was bursting. It was me or another guy. They had to let go because they were shrinking and everyone was losing jobs. I'm not bragging here, but I was better at the job than the other guy. They knew I was going to do comedy. They knew I was going to leave, so they kind of pushed me from the nest, and that's when I started comedy. But those 4 years, those things that really helped in the beginning were having a regular day job so you don't have to worry about money. You can't put your eggs in the basket of like, I'm going to make money from comedy, because it's going to take 4 or 5 years minimum. So you get in just the context. Even if you were fantastic, if you started and were great, which no one is, any of these stories you hear about people like, someone dared me to do comedy, I got up and people love me. I don't believe any of those stories.
Yeah.
It never happened. It never happened. I don't care. It never happened. And you might be okay, but it just, there was no, and you didn't become a star. No one became a star from that or started getting paid. You have to make all the contacts and stuff, and that takes a long time to ingrain yourself. So having a regular 9-to-5 job helped. Having a car helped immensely, because you run into all these other comedians, and a lot of them, especially the guys who are working a lot, they're in trouble. They have DUIs and stuff like that, so they need someone to drive them to the places. So if you have a car, they love to bring you along and be like, okay, you can come with me while I'm working this club, and I'll give you a guest set. So those are the 2 things. And I think an attitude of there is no substitute for stage time. Like, take it anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's terrible stage time. You're terrible, so you deserve terrible stage time. So you just need to be learned. Half of the learning of comedy is being on stage. You know, it's the thing people always say, oh, there's a guy at my work who's really funny. I'm sure he is. He's probably, in some ways, he's probably funnier than a lot of comedians. But is he funnier on stage than those comedians? That's it. That's the learning process of, are you funny on stage? And that's what being up and doing open mics and shitty stage time everywhere, that's what gets you good. Just taking anything and learning. Because again, there's just something that seeps in osmosis about being on stage, getting cover. It's not normal. You know, it's the famous thing where people say, they'd rather be dead than, you know, on stage, right? That the number one fear is being on stage, or speaking in front of the public, rather than, you know, a fear of dying.
Jerry Seinfeld has a great joke about that.
Yes.
Says the number 1 fear is public speaking, and the number 2 is death, which means you're better off in the casket than you are giving the eulogy.
Exactly.
All right. So between the time that you went full time, did you go on Letterman first, or did you start writing for the Ellen Show first?
No. So I started in 2003, and then I have kind of a crazy story to it all. And I moved down to LA then soon after that, in 2003, and I was doing comedy a couple years down here. And in 2005, I was actually coming home from the Improv out in Ontario, and I was coming with a friend of both of ours, Gary Cannon, and we were going to stop and eat somewhere as we were doing. We already ate at the club, but we were going to stop and eat somewhere again on the way home. And I was like, hey, I don't think I'd eat. My stomach's kind of upset. I was driving. And then like a few miles down the road, I go, hey, my stomach's.
Wait, is Gary the one with the DUI in this story? Is that why you're driving?
Right, no. He's a bad driver. He's just bad. He could probably get a DUI without eating. He's a terrible driver. He drives like a ground. So anyways, I asked him to drive because I was feeling so bad. And then I got in the back seat. Anyways, I thought I got home and I thought I had food poisoning from the improv. And it wasn't. And then the woman I was dating, who is now my wife, but the woman I was dating at the time, she's like, oh, I think you got food poisoning. You've never had it. It's that. And then I went to the hospital finally, and they thought I had appendicitis. And so they're like, you're going to take your appendix out. When I woke up hours later, there was a guy there, and he introduced himself as an oncologist. And he said, hey, we discovered tumors all over your liver. And we're running a biopsy, but we think you have cancer. And then fast forward a couple months after tests and stuff, I had stage 4 cancer, and they were giving me possibly 5 years to live was the worst case scenario. So I, at that point, amped up everything in my career instead of, one of the things that, like I was talking about, I worked very hard, but I always thought if you just work hard and you be funny and work at the craft, those things will find you. The clubs had always found me. People would refer me. People would say, oh, you know what, you should come work at this club. Or a club owner would call me and be like, I heard so-and-so came in last week and he told me about you. So it was finding me. I wasn't going after it like I should have. And this was a wake-up call. That I'm only at 5 years was a wake-up call that, hey, I can't wait everything come to me. And that's how I was waiting. My dream was to be on David Letterman. So I flipped that around and I was like, okay, if I only have 5 years, I'm going to spend that 5 years chasing that dream to get on Letterman. So then I started pulling out all the stops. I lived on the West Coast. They're a very East Coast centric show. I did everything I could to get in contact with them. They had never heard of me. But I spent those 5 years. I finally got in contact with the guy who books it, sent him DVDs. He said, no, he liked something, hated other things. But it took me almost 5 years, the 5 years of my worst case scenario, to get on the show. So that's the length of the process. I gave myself as a goal 1 year to get on the show. And that, again, the same way how I was saying it's ridiculous to get good at comedy, to make contact with the show and get on in a year, that would have been incredibly lucky, especially trying to get it. Like maybe if they saw you somewhere, if I was performing at the Improv and just so happened the booker was there that night and I had some incredible set, then maybe you could have been on in a couple months. But from them not knowing who you are and introducing yourself and get on, it was never going to happen in a year. And it took, again, a process of almost 5 years to do it.
Was that Eddie Brill?
That was Eddie Brill was the booker, yes. Yeah. So I met him, actually, a club owner in San Francisco. Tom Sawyer owned Cobb's Comedy Club at that time in San Francisco, and he heard about everything that was going on with the cancer and stuff and this kind of goal. I started a project called Dying to Do Letterman. Now a couple made a documentary about it. It's on Amazon if you're interested. It's got Gaffigan and Regan and Romano and all these people who've ever been on Letterman that I talked to along the journey. And a couple great filmmakers made it. I'm not bragging about it. I can walk like it's not me. It's the filmmaking. It's the telling of the story is the impressive part. But Eddie Brill was put in contact. This club owner reached out and said, "Hey, there's this great comic from San Francisco. You should give a look at him." And so he introduced me to Eddie Brill, and then we started the process of sending tapes and going back and forth on supposedly his job was to find out what Dave would like on the show. So Dave doesn't decide, but he puts a guy like, I trust your opinion of what I'll like on the show. There was a lot of that.
Was there a specific set that you were working on for your 5 minutes?
100%. So I had 5 minutes that I was like, this is the 5 minutes I want to do on Letterman. And so that's what I sent him first. And he didn't like any of it, except one joke. It was a joke. You probably heard it, Paul, about it's a fraction joke. It's basically, I won't give you the whole thing, but basically the big end of it is a car insurance company said they could insure me for a fraction of what I've been paying. Unfortunately, that fraction was 5/3. So that was the joke. And so Eddie was like, Dave would love this. This is exactly his kind of humor. It's that. He's like, so then I thought he would have loved all this. I was a big fan of the show. I watched the show. I watched the comedians had it on. I thought he'd like everything I had in this 5 minute set. And Eddie's his, whatever, avatar that has to go out and say, I think this is what they would like. I'll give you an example, and this is what's so tough about being a comic and chasing a late night set. Eddie Brill's favorite comedian was Robert Schimmel. That's Eddie Brill, who's the Books Letterman's favorite comic.
Right.
He said Robert Schimmel would never be on the David Letterman show. It's
No.
just the kind of humor that Dave liked.
Isn't Schimmel Triumph?
No, that's it's very similar. It's Robert Smigel.
Right.
Robert Schimmel has passed away. He got in a car accident in 09 or 10. But amazing comedian. It was on all the like old Rodney Dangerfield specials. Just an amazing comedian. And again, he was Eddie Brill the booker. So you think, well, if the booker loves you, wouldn't you be on the show? No, because there's still this extra thing of he's making an extra jump of like, I can't book what I like. I have to book what Dave is gonna like. And you gotta, I would disagree with Eddie Brill on some of that. Like, no, I think Dave would love this. I've seen what he laughs at. I've seen what comedians he has on, but that's not my decision. In the end, you don't get to do what you want on the show. You get to do what the booker thinks they want on the show.
Right. I talked for a while with the Colbert booker, Jessica Pilot.
Yeah.
And what she liked about me was that I was not political.
Yes.
And everyone was like, yeah, but Colbert's so political. No, they don't want more politics that conflict, right?
Right.
Jimmy Fallon, I hear they want, pop culture stuff and fun and light. So yes, each person has their own taste. In fact, when Leno took over the Tonight Show, if memory serves me right, he actually reduced some of the comedians coming on.
Right, the number went down. Everyone thought it would go up when he took over, since he was a star.
Right. And it went down. Whereas Conan did the big push now, where now everybody. And at this, have you done a Conan set?
No.
Have you submitted for that?
I have talked to the guy JP over the years. I came close one time, and then they changed their format. And
yeah.
I say close. I mean, he was like, I like this set. Let's make some changes. And then by the time I made the changes and stuff, nothing. So,
okay, so funny story. The way that I actually met Steve, the way I met you, was because I asked Brian Kiley, the head writer of Conan, how do I get my tape to JP? And he knew that I was still kind of like only a couple, 2-3 years into comedy at this point. Yeah. So he says, tell you what, I'll get you some paid work with Steve, with, who's it? Doug James. He goes, I'll get you some paid work with Doug James. And then Doug James books me to open for Steve.
That's right. That's where it
gets better. It turns out that Steve's most prestigious work he'd ever done in comedy happened to be doing videos for the Improv Traffic School that at that time I was in charge of all the data and all of the product management of it. So when he introduced himself after my set, he said, great job. I was oh, this is wonderful. And I looked at his face and I realized I've been looking at this man's face for 2 years and he didn't know it. And so that's how we started talking. Was you recorded about 10 different segments, 10, 15 segments. And this was probably after Letterman,
I think it was before, because Letterman ended up being the end of 09, and I want to say that was probably 07 or 08.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I think, as I recall, I do remember this. So it was Improv Traffic School. The guy contacted me and he goes, hey, you're clean. Can you change some of your jokes to make them driving jokes? So people who have, again, if this doesn't make sense, if you get a ticket and you have to take driving school so you don't lose your license, you can go online and take a traffic school. And one of the bonuses of this one is there's supposedly comedy interspersed throughout it. So after each segment, I would pop in and tell a joke or try and make it about whatever you just watched, that kind of thing. But when they called me, that I met them, we taped up in Oxnard or Van Nuys, I can't remember which one. It was a porn studio. Like we got there and we were taping in front of this brick wall that kind of made it look like you're at the Improv, and I think it said Improv Traffic School on the wall behind it. But so I'm in front of this brick wall, but like right next to me, right here was like a bedroom, and right here was an office, and then over there was like, I think there was like a White House set. And then over there was a kitchen set, and it was weird. So like if you had a 360-degree camera, every click of the clock in 360 degrees would shoot a different set. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. You know, I was like, what do they shoot here? And the guy was like, porn. This is a porn. But this was what they were doing. This day they were doing traffic school there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then you got writing for the for Ellen's show after the Letterman then?
Yeah, they saw my improv traffic school and said, hey, this is the kind of writing. No, that's not what happened. Let's see. Yeah, so I did Letterman at the end of 2009. And then, soon after, a couple months after, I think there was some buzz from the Letterman set. That's probably the most buzz I've had in my career. Had a meeting like with NBC afterwards, and just some good things happening, and got into a bunch of clubs. A lot of people see it. It's a national audience. And then I think the Ellen people had seen the set. One of the things about that set was that it was all one that I eventually did on Letterman. Like I mentioned the 5/3 joke. I didn't even do the 5/3 joke by the time I got to the set I did. I was trying to chase, like replicate, okay, he likes the 5/3 joke. I'm going to come up with more jokes like that. And they never liked any of that stuff. I ended up doing 5 minutes all on one topic, which is very dangerous for a comedian. It made me extra nervous because if they're not liking you a minute in, you're not changing the subject. You're sticking along this thing. So I had seen Regan do it and Gaffigan do it, but that's Regan and Gaffigan. You know what I mean? Or Jake Johansson. Like I was very worried. I was like, I'd rather tell like 7 different, 1-minute jokes or something. But that's the one they picked. And by that time I was like, well, I'm not gonna argue. If you want to put me on TV, I will do this joke you want. So this long bit. So anyways, that plays in a little bit because I think the Ellen people saw that set and it was very Ellen-esque in that it was about one long topic. The whole thing was about when you go to a hotel and your key doesn't work, your key card doesn't work. So it's about that whole process. So they even said, when I finally met with the Ellen people, they're like, this is kind of an Ellen, we can see Ellen telling this joke, that you did. And so they even said to me when I met with them, they're like, if you can replicate this joke like that, you're going to have a great career here. And I was like, well, it took me 5 years to come up with that. Like, it's not like I didn't just spit that out easily, But anyways, some person I know, again, and this is why you want to get out, and there's luck involved, and knowing people and networking and all that kind of stuff. A person I knew way back from the Bay Area when I started up there had come down, and he had worked as an assistant at the Ellen show for a couple years. And then I think when this happened, he was working at the George Lopez show. And he reached out to me and said, hey, I heard Ellen is looking for writers again. I think you'd be great. Do you want to send a packet? So then he told me what you got to send is, I think it was 3 monologues, some idea for sketches, and a few other things. So it was like a 3-page thing. I said, yes, I would love to do it. So he gave me the head writer's info. I wrote this packet, sent it in, and I worked on it for weeks to get it perfect, sent it in, and he wrote back, the head writer, and he goes, I love this, but we just hired someone. But I had heard there were a revolving door. There's at Ellen, so, and they still are. There's a revolving door there. So I was like, okay. He goes, I love it, but we just hired someone. And I figure I had nothing to lose at this point. And again, this is the other time I think, be bold. You have nothing to lose in this thing. Bold always helps. So I wrote back to him and I said, okay, well, I'm going to send you a new monologue every week until you hire me. And he wrote back and he said, and he goes, I love this idea. Sounds great. And I sent 3 monologues that I had on the side anyways. I had written a bunch of monologues and then put the best 3 in the packet. So I had like a backlog of monologues anyways. 3 weeks later, he writes me and he goes, we fired that guy, come in now for an interview.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's why I went in and met with them. And that's when they said, hey, we had seen your Letterman set when we researched you and all that. But so I think, yeah, networking, knowing people, if you're out there working and you're good and you're working on your craft, people speak nicely of you. When they hear about things, openings, they think of you just the same way Kylie said, hey, well, here you go. Go work with Doug James. And you and I met through that. How many people you meet with that?
Yeah.
Now I know Ray and Dominika. We know each other now. Like those kinds of things. And then being bold, I think, always helps. Like you have nothing to lose on some of these things.
So what would you say working in a writer's room is the most important quality to have? You have to have one type of quality. What would you say?
I'm bad to speak on this because I would have thought I ended up writing there for 1 season. And then, like I said, it's a revolving door. But the 5 people before me, none of them lasted more than a week. So staying that whole season, that was like, people were surprised that it was that long, you know what I mean? But the thing I think that hurt me there, or that is, I think, my strong point, didn't serve me as well as I thought it would. I think my strong point is I'm a generally likable, affable, get along with people person. Like I spent some time in the Navy with other comics. I'm very friendly. I do things like I organize like comedy sports events, like you know, where people go, all comedians come out and play ball. Just this networking and get along with everyone. And I thought that would serve me well at Ellen, but it didn't. And not to talk too much trash about it, but it was the atmosphere there was not the greatest atmosphere. And there's actually been a Twitter thing a few weeks ago, people talking about Ellen not being very nice. But I had heard these rumors long before that, long before I ever worked there. Those rumors were out there, and I don't want to pile on her because I never saw anything where I think she's mean or any meaner than anyone else. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Was she short or whatever? Sure, but she's under a lot of pressure. But I did see there was a lot of like behind the scenes, people just not being nice to each other. Like it's that side of Hollywood where you're just like, for as nice as she is on camera, behind the scenes, the people working with her, the head writer, those people were not very nice. There was a lot of kind of like this attitude of these people who maybe got bullied in high school and now they're in power, so they're bullying people.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
I worked in a writer's room for 2 years in Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
Right? When I worked for Dan Schneider, who I got treated pretty darn well, considering that he was a very intense guy.
Yeah.
But I remember one time I brought someone the wrong DVD and I had to hear a 90-minute lecture about it.
Right.
So that's part of that when it stops with you,
Yes.
there's a personality type
Mm-hmm.
that like a super chill, nice person can maybe run a show for 1 or 2 years. You want to have 15 years of wild success, you have to be a little aggressive.
Yeah, there's again, yeah, it favors people like that because they're the people that get done it. It's the Steve Jobs story, right? Like it's the people who aren't worried about being nice; they're worried about getting shit done. And I understand that. And so now, again, I love being there. It was high pressure. I'm just saying, usually those things, that being the nice guy usually serves me well, you know. In the thing, one of the things that was different. I always, growing up, this is much older than you guys, but I watched this show called The Dick Van Dyke Show, and it took place. Most of it took place in the writer's room of like a Tonight Show kind of thing. And it was on the show, it was only 3 writers, but they all just bounced ideas off each other, which is what comedians do. Anyways, right? Like you see a comedian on stage, he comes off and you're like, hey, I love that joke. And then they're like, oh, I love that one. What about this and this? And then you just top each other and then you take the best thing, right? And watching the more timely version is 30 Rock, you know, where Liz Lemon comes in and all the writers are around a table. And they're just, you know, shooting ideas to each other. That's what I imagined it was. Ellen, and I don't want to say, because it might be more TV shows than this, but from what I've heard about Conan, it's not this way. Ellen was, here's an assignment, and then everyone would go back to their office, and you would work on it yourself. There was no brainstorming, which I hated. That's where the good stuff comes up, where you think you've got a great idea, and everyone laughs for a second, and then they're like, yeah, but what about this? And then eventually you get to some other deal. And, you know, I love Conan. Conan's my favorite late night guy right now. And sometimes you see the ideas they come up with, and I just imagine what it must have been in that writer's room of like.
The writer's room now is just Brian and Lori.
Well, yeah, now at home, right? Yeah. But that's it. Just them, 2 comedians trying to, like, how silly can you get, you know? So that's what I was hoping it was, but it wasn't. It was much more that. Like, go to your own room and work on stuff. I will say, history of Hollywood, this was soon after a writer's strike that had happened in 08 or 09.
2007, November. I lost my job doing.
Okay, so yeah, that's so that supposedly changed the hierarchy there at Ellen and stuff, and it used to be more collaborative, and it was much less when I got there. So,
well, one of the things that they did at Nickelodeon, I wasn't there anymore, but they had the writers writing all these scripts. So this way, if there was another strike, they'd have things ready.
Have it back, yeah, right. Right.
So, all right, well, Steve, thank you so much. We have now a segment that we call Kooky Quarantine Questions. Dominika is going to ask you questions that have nothing to do with what we've been talking about.
All right.
And let's see what she comes up with, all right?
Excited.
Title.
Hello, yes, welcome to the Cookie Quarantine Questions. Obviously, this is all about the pandemic, the quarantine, lockdown. So, Steve, what's the weirdest dream you've had since the lockdown started?
That's so funny you say it. First of all, I've been having weird dreams every night. I can't be the only one. Everyone's got to be having crazy dreams.
Yeah.
We're all stressed. My wife is stressed a little bit. Like sometimes I'll just be like, hey, like we're all screwed up right now. Like we're probably all more screwed up than we know even. You know what I mean? Like, because there is no, you can't tell anyone anything. You can't be like, it'll be fine. That like, we don't know. So I have so many, but I do remember this way. Actually, Paul, I don't know if you remember, he probably worked for Doug James. Sean Halpin, you know Sean?
Oh, yeah, I know Sean.
Okay, so I had a dream about Sean Halpin. Sean Halpin now is one of the essential workers. He's driving a truck right now. He lives in Texas, but he's driving, like, delivering food and stuff to everyone. Well, I had a dream last night that I was in the truck, like doing Eastbound and Down and Smokey and the Bandit with him, and we were on a cross-country trek. And then, you know, again, just how dreams go, we were going to join a softball team. And so he drives to the park, and then all of a sudden we're not in his semi anymore. We're in like a sports, like old muscle car from the 70s. And he gets to the parking lot, like we're supposed to, the game's here, like down in a goalie, and the parking lot's here, and he pulls up and he just goes in and drives down right onto the field. And then the police come, and then we're arguing, but it felt so real. It was one of those, like when I woke up, I was like, oh my God, why are we in trouble with the law? Why did Sean do that? I was like, oh no, this is crazy. Yeah, that's only the most recent that I remember. But every night I'm having crazy dreams. It's weird.
Like, have you ever thought about joining a softball team ever?
Not in years. Yeah,
Did you ever do a comedian one? Did you ever do a comedian one?
Yeah, that I will say that's probably the last time I did is doing like organized, like comedians, let's go play softball, but not like joining a team. I wonder where that came from.
So I have a few more questions. These are fun. I like writing these questions. If you were selected to write the coronavirus pandemic book of the year, of like you were the one, how would you title it?
Ooh, the title of the COVID-19.
I know these are like, you know, like you should have like a minute or two to think because it's like so much pressure. Like, this is the book you have to title.
Yeah. Oh, I'm trying to think what a good.
At the same time, he's a comedian who should be able to do improv skills when called.
What's the first thing that came to your mind? Like, first thing. I don't care if it's like.
I was thinking of a Tale of Two Cities. I think is one of it. That's just a great title for a book. So I was trying to would there be a tale of two pandemics like we had. So we have the COVID-19, and then as we talked about to call back the killer, hornets.
Hornets, yeah.
Yeah, like that kind of thing. It was the it was the sickest of times. It was the steamiest of times. Like an awful book, but yeah, I couldn't find a clever way. Paul, do you have a good title?
I was thinking something kind of like I don't know that I have this image. So we're movie guys. Steve and I've been on his podcast a lot for the movies. I have this image that if this was a Hollywood movie, The Rock, Bruce Willis, Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the only way they could fight it is on the couch. Right? Like they couldn't actually hunt down the coronavirus.
Right.
So for me, it's more of the image of our heroes just sitting on the couch to fight the pandemic. This
is your Thor, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So for me, I guess, the idea would be kind of like, I don't know. Oh, actually, maybe the Lebowski thing, kind of like, I'm the coronavirus, you're the coronavirus. The coronavirus abides. That would be fun. The day we realize that, no one knows no one knows what they're doing. That's what I would call it. No one, right? Because the fact that the way we fought this was through watching Netflix.
Yeah.
the idea that the government go, okay, if we give everyone $1,200, that'll solve their finances, right?
And I would have put in the image, I would put the needle with Lysol in it. That would be my image.
Yes.
Okay, next question.
All right.
You know, every day feels the same. Like there isn't a Wednesday, Sunday, every day feels the same. If you could have chosen a day of your life to repeat itself over and over, what day would you pick?
This is a great question. And I know earlier I said every time you say a great question. Set that up. Yeah.
It's today, right?
I have thought about the day, the day I got married. I've thought about this. Do you guys have a favorite year? I talk about this with people already. That's a question I always ask people. Do you have a favorite year in your life?
Yeah.
All you?
Yeah, totally.
Right? Do you have a favorite year? Like you're like, that was my best year. Yeah.
Yep, I do.
So mine was 1985 because first of all, the music was great. I probably, Dominika, plug your ears for a second. I probably touched my first boob that year. So that was big. And the Chicago Bears won the Super Bowl. They had an amazing season. So I always think about, like, that year was just magical for me. Like, going back, like, everything was perfect. I didn't have any real world. I was, still a kid in school. So no real world problems. Everything, just seemed to be going good as I look back romantically on that day. So, but the day would probably culminate in that when it actually takes place in '86 when the Chicago Bears finally won the Super Bowl that year. I mean, that was just an amazing day. I remember my friend's dad gave us beer. Like, we were nowhere close to being of age, but like, he gave us beer to celebrate and stuff like that. So that was a pretty magical day. That and the day I touched the boob for the first time.
Day where you touch a boob for the first time, you get drunk, and your team wins the Super Bowl. That's
a hell of a day. I haven't had a day like that now that I think about it since. Those three things never came together, like, individually. Maybe they never happened in the same day again.
All right, we have one more kooky question for you, I think. One more.
Yep.
All right.
So what's the most important thing you have bought on Amazon since the lockdown started?
Oh, yeah. We bought a lot.
Most important to you?
A lot of Amazon stuff. You know what? We haven't gotten one. Is supposed to be coming. I'm very lucky. A comedian was renting out our spare room. So
Gary Cannon?
No, Garrett Clark, very funny. I don't know if you know him. He's performed at Flappers. He's a Canadian comedian who had just moved down here to perform, to move to LA and be a comedian here. And then the pandemic hit, and his girlfriend is a flight attendant and just happened to be stranded here when everything hit, and they cut her from her job. So she's staying. So rather than being quarantined with just my wife and I, we have 2 extra people. So that's been kind of nice, where we're not as stir crazy. But we got one of these games. I've only seen it. We haven't played it yet, but I think it's going to be our best purchase. It's have you seen it on the beach? It's like it almost looks like a one of those small exercise trampolines where one person.
Ball?
Yes. What's it called? Spike ball?
Spike ball. Oh, I play that. It's so much fun. It's so much fun.
Yes.
Have you played it yet?
We haven't played it yet. So
oh, dude, it's so much fun. Oh, man.
I've heard it's a blast. And we have 4 people here in the house, so we should be able to play.
Run it. Just go.
Yeah.
Go. My roommates and I love it, dude. It is so good.
Okay, Ray, you got me even more excited. So that's going to be the best. That's the one I'm most excited. You guys what did you guys buy? Have you guys bought fun stuff on Amazon?
I bought a fan.
I'm crazy about. Oh my God, I love coffee. So this is like a good one. Like coffee, like you bought it in a cafe. Like, I'm obsessed with coffee. Coffee and chocolate.
I would imagine that's got to be tough because most people go to the cafe, and now we can't do that. So this tastes as good as that stuff, as the cafe. It tastes that good.
It tastes that good. I mean, it was kind of expensive, or maybe for me, I don't know. But
Ray, what did you have? What did you say you bought?
Oh, I bought a fan. I really like a white noise while I sleep. Yeah. I feel like I don't know if actually this works out. I'm just the wrong math. But I feel like a fan, like running throughout the night, saves a lot more power than air conditioning. I mean, that just makes a lot of sense.
I think so. Right.
Yeah. So I feel it also more if it's just like on my face all night. So it's a win-win for me.
Yeah, that's a fan. How about you, Paul?
I got a giant 3-piece portrait of the Big Lebowski.
Nice.
It's a painting, and it's in 3
Split and you laying up? Yeah.
Yeah, it's of the dude. It's with the glass. It's at the bar. It's right before he sees the stranger, and it's just hanging there. So when lockdown happened, I went to Target, Walmart, everything that was still kind of open, and went online, and I basically built a room that I now want to live in.
Oh,
So I now have lights up that hang from the ceiling and the wall. I have artwork all over the apartment. I basically just took like $400 and said, screw it. If I got to be here for the next 2, 3, 4 months, I want it to be the most livable, habitable place possible.
that's you're smart.
And all it did was it created such a beautiful kind of natural scene that I can do nothing but drink vodka in. So
You even have like Christmas lights. I'm like, yeah. I have Bistro lights in my room. I love that.
yeah, I put some white Christmas lights over the thing. So I did a lot of little things like that, and I learned that I now know how to use a hammer and nail. It only took me 38 years of manhood to figure out how to pound.
Do you wear the Thor cape with the hammer? Is your hammer and stuff?
On the next thing, I will.
You better.
I want to make, actually what I thought about getting like a bookshelf and then just putting all the vodka bottles on it.
Now, is it just vodka, or are you doing White Russians in honor of the?
No, white Russians are a little too expensive. So Smirnoff is $11.99 at Ralph's, and I can go through a bottle over 3-4 days, and then so forth and so forth. Because there's no reason not to drink. Like, there's just no reason not to drink. Like, well, what if I'm not going to go out and drive.
Right, even better. This is the best drinking time ever.
I don't have to get up until 9:45 in the morning. So if I drink from 10 to 1, Now, the only thing that I did do is this. This is funny, and we do have to end because Flappers' Facebook page does need us to get off after about an hour. I actually had a friend text me while I was drinking, asking if she could have $100 because her situation's really bad. So I said, sure, why not? Texted her.
Oh, text me next time you're drunk.
Yes. Text me after 10 p.m. I'll give you $100.
10 o'clock tonight.
I wake up the next morning. This is all done through Snapchat, by the way. Okay? So I wake up the next morning, and there's this question going, why did you give me $100? And I write back, oh, because you asked for it. Oh, when did I ask for it? It's really weird. And the next comment is, I'm pretty sure my man will be very upset with me taking money from you.
Ooh.
So what happened was, it turns out that she was too afraid to ask the boyfriend for some money. She asked me. He's probably lost his job too. And he goes into the Snapchat. And I'm sitting there going, oh, for crying out loud, no good deed goes unpunished.
Wow, but she asked for it.
She asked for it, but she never told him. So now he's writing back. So now I'm deciding to troll him as he's trolling me.
Wow.
So this was the only downfall of being nice while intoxicated. So, and then she texts me. She goes, he found out. I'm like, how do you have your phone back so quickly? Like,
Odd.
by the way, that's the number one thing with relationships that I've always been most terrified of, is that I'm going to look at the girl. I'm going to go, no, you don't get the phone password. That's it. Steve, does your wife have your password?
It's funny you say it, because this became a thing this week. It was my wife's birthday yesterday. And I organized this thing for 2 weeks because we're in lockdown. There's not anything we can do. I organized this thing where I had people send a video to me doing a puppet show wishing her happy birthday. And then I edited all of them together.
Ah.
It's a bunch of puppets. But I had to, one night when she was asleep, get into her phone and send text to her friends and then tell them to send it to me, not her. And so I do have her password and she has mine, and I don't care. I'll leave my phone with her. I have nothing to hide. So she does have it. But the other day, the day before her birthday, she got into, so people are sending me these puppet shows, on my phone. She got into bed, I'm sleeping, and she gets in and with me to like wake me up and stuff. And she goes, let me see your phone. She reaches it, and I smacked her hand. And I go, that is my phone. Like and I've never said anything like this, like just in being mean. And I could have, but I had just woken up and I panicked. And so she was thinking like, oh my God, he's texting some other woman. What's he doing here? And so I had to come clean. Then like 10 minutes, she like got mad and left. And then I had to go find her and be like, look, I'm working on something for your birthday and you can't see it. And if you had opened my phone, there was going to be 12 texts I got overnight that people had sent because I sleep, till like 11. But yeah, so I went off on her like a guy who is cheating on her would have went. I was like, that is my phone. You do not.
She thinks you're cheating.
Yes.
But in reality, you're getting puppet videos for her birthday.
Yes.
Did she see it already, the video?
She finally did. She saw it yesterday and loved it. And she said it was one of the best, birthday presents she got. She loved it.
Nice.
I for a while had to suffer the penalty of cheating on her without the sex.
Right.
Because I was suffering and I did react like someone who was doing something very villainous.
Dominika, real quick, do you and your boyfriends over the years exchange passwords?
Like, no, like we trust each other, like with like, no, we trust each, like I don't check phones, I don't like that, but it's kind of like, I hope everything's okay, kind of thing.
Ray, what about you?
No, me neither. We just keep it to ourselves.
I think marriage is a little different though.
Marriage, amps it up a little bit. Sometimes you gotta
Sure.
into the other person's phone for something.
Right. I do know a lot of my friends who have kids, they can't have a passcode because they got to give it to the kid, and they don't want if the kid's playing on the phone, they don't want to have to redo the password over and over and over and over again because the kid locks himself out.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a problem.
I have an idea. This is has not to do with comedy, but I always thought that this would be a great idea for an app. Why not have, instead of one passcode, have two passcodes, right? So one passcode, like mine is 12345, right? And that takes me and opens up my thing. But if you are a sinister person and you want to be hiding some for them, if you enter 7, 8, 9, 10, that takes you to something else that only you see, and then that person 4, 5.
That's a cheating app.
That's what I'm saying. Isn't that that's a good idea though,
So
right?
basically,
It's $1 million idea. Well, 160
earmark.
Black market.
So you can earmark pictures or phone numbers as to not to be seen in the first number.
Right.
Yeah.
So if your wife hated me, you could hide my name in the first number,
Exactly.
and then you log into the second number if you want to call me. That's brilliant.
That way you just never have. Then you can leave your phone anywhere. You're like, well, yeah, they have my thing for that browser.
right. That's a great idea.
Steve, this is how you make it back to Silicon Valley.
I gotta head back there. Yes.
This is it. All right, well, Steve, thank you so much for coming by. How can people find you?
Yeah, it was fun.
How can people find you? Where can they see you more, do things?
Yeah, I have a website, stevemazon.com. I'm on Facebook. Friend me there. I don't have 5,000 friends, so I would love to friend everyone. I'm on Instagram at Steve Mazon, M-A-Z-A-N. And then if you love movies, I do a podcast. It's like a book club for people who hate to read. It's a movie club. So you just sit there and watch a movie each week. It's called the Mazon Movie Club. You can see my logo there. Paul's been a frequent guest, and if you like watching movies, we find a movie each week. Everyone watches it, and then we share our thoughts on it.
Fantastic. Dominika, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Dominika VS and on Facebook, Dominika Van Santen.
Great. Ray, what about you?
Let's do Twitter at Ray J Lau. Actually, everything's at Ray J Lau, L-A-U.
I'm the Moom Abides on Instagram and Twitter. If you want to find more information about Flappers University, go to flappersuniversity.com or email me at classes@flapperscomedy.com. We do have classes that deal with all the things we're talking about today, everything from content creation to writing for TV. So we like giving out as much free content as possible here. Steve, we've been doing a Punch It Up Joke Lab every Wednesday for free for comics.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, we've had over the last 8 weeks, we've had probably over 80 comedians come in and work on their jokes for free, and it's just been really cool.
Oh, well, it's a great idea. It's like a writer's room, just like we were
Yeah.
talking. Right.
And so the rule became after the first couple weeks where people have to come every other week because people liked it so much they kept coming back.
Oh, that's
So we had
good.
to, yes.
Oh.
That's how great of an instructor I am. People can't get it.
More Moomjean.
That's right. So guys, thank you so much for coming. Now, I want to talk about one thing before we go. We're having a contest for next week. We showed you what the client wants, what the client's budget is. Ray, if you can put that back up one more time.
Here we go.
What I want to show you is next week we're going to have a contest. Anyone who's watching this show, we want you, because this is Star Wars week, so we're a little behind, but we figured if we're going to be behind, we'd be totally behind. We want you to make your own Star Wars version of what the client wants, the client's budget. So take a screen cap from anything from Star Wars, and then take a screen cap of you in your house. It could be with Legos. It could be you personally. It could be a drawing. However you want to do this, feel free to do it. We want to get you. And here's how we're going to find it. Hashtag FUTV 2020. That's it. Perfect. Right there. Hashtag FUTV 2020. What we found is no one's ever used this hashtag. So your work will only be there and we'll be able to find it easier. So guys, that's our contest for next week. The winner will get a free class with us on one of our one-day workshops. So we're looking forward to giving away a winner. Steve, you're more than welcome to try that one if you want to do a Star Wars
stuff.
You what?
I'll dig out my Star Wars stuff.
Perfect. Perfect. Dominika, feel free to do Princess Leia. Ray, I'll be doing Jabba the Hutt. And feel free to do whatever you want to do as well. So guys, thank you so much for the first episode of FUTV. Ray, if you could put on the end credits there for us. I made these 20 minutes before the show, Steve. I made all these credits. Yes, I used that. It's the one with our names.
Oh gosh.
It's okay. It's okay. Just put up the other one, unless you can find it. This is live TV, Steve.
Just up for now.
Television all right. Guys, thank you so much, and everyone have a wonderful day. We're going off.
Bye, Ray. Bye, Dominika. Bye, Paul.
Bye.